I'm Ainsley, and welcome back to It Can Be Done, but Not By Everyone. In our last episode, Garfield shared his story and why he's so passionate about helping new life insurance agents succeed. Today, we're digging into one of the biggest reasons why so many new agents struggle, their expectations. So, before we get into the details, let me ask you, why do you think expectations are so make or break for new agents in this industry?
I would say expectations helps an individual shape the amount of effort that they will put in. And if you don't have that right expectation, if you think that this is an easy industry, then the effort will be minimal and they will be in for a rude awakening. And then the other thing is with the expectations not being aligned, and then persons realize what is truly needed, then there's an increased chance of disappointment that will happen. And with that, you will end up having individuals not wanting to pursue this. So, having the right expectation is critically important for potential increase in success within the industry.
And as you've engaged with individuals over the past several years, what do you think are some of the most common misconceptions that you've heard from agents or other individuals that you've spoken with?
There is a lot of money to be made and it's easy. They will have a lot of time on their hands. It's easy to, you know, write policies, no real skills needed. I would say those are three big things that I've heard that really causes, the misunderstanding, misconception of this particular industry.
And when those expectations that they might have kind of crash into reality and what's actually going on, what does that first year really look like? What's kind of, the typical day to day for that new agent?
Yeah, the typical day to day when they start out is becoming proficient within the industry, having to do a lot of training and learning because many of them come into this industry not from a sales background, identifying and generating potential leads, and making a lot of calls, booking appointments, and trying to close on sales. And that first 90 to 180 days is a grind for most of these individuals. And if they're not well skilled, and many of them are not, they truly are in for a rude awakening. But it's a lot of long hours for those who actually will excel and succeed within that very short period of time. But it is a grind.
You've said that this career requires structure and consistency, but that's such a stumbling block for many. Why do you think it's so hard for people to build that discipline that they need early on?
Again, similar to what I just mentioned around, this industry, many will come into it having a certain expectation that there's a lot of money to be made. It's fairly easy. The skills required, they believe they have, and many of them are coming from an employee role. So the structure was already defined by their employer for them. There was no skill necessary. They had to just be at a particular location at a particular time. They had to do a certain task within a certain time period. So that's all defined and planned for them. In this space, they are independent. And yes, they're really their own business, but many of them do not come in with that structure. So it's a skill that has to be developed, and it takes time with any skill to do that. And because many of them do not have it, they will struggle initially.
And then there's, the financial side of things. I know you've talked about how underestimating expenses or not, planning for the income cycles can sink someone before they've actually, really even begun. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit and maybe share how something like the commission compass helps that?
Absolutely. The the average individual who comes into this space, from what I've seen, isn't well informed about all the expenses that they will incur or likely incur on a monthly basis. And I'll give a quick example where they write some number of policies, and over that 1 month period, they generate a certain amount of commission, $10,000. If a lot of them will think that $10,000 is all spendable money, but it really isn't, because there is a portion of that that they will have to set aside to buy, invest in the next batch of leads, and that could be a couple $1,000s. Additionally, because you're an independent, you also need to pay the government taxes. So that's another couple $1,000s. And because these agents are not highly skilled assessing that client that they wrote a policy for,
Right.
some of them, those clients, will end up canceling their policies. That becomes what are called chargebacks. So that's possibly another couple $1,000s. So that
Wow.
$10,000 that started out is now down to about 4,000 based on what I've mentioned.
Right.
So if someone receives that 10,000 and goes and spends 8,000 of it, they're now going to be challenged to be
Right.
able to move, continue going forward. Commission Compass is a tool that we've developed to help that agent input, some expected amount of monthly take home. And we will, within that tool, provide them with the specific insights and the amount of spend and leads, the number of leads based on different criteria, the rate at which they convert, the amount of time that needs to be spent making calls, and the amount of leads, like I said, that needs to be purchased. So Commission Compass helps them assess and quickly give them some idea of what that
Right.
true
Right.
amount that they need to generate in policies in order to take home that expected.
Right. Seems like a very easy way to set that expectation early on, especially
Absolutely.
when it comes to, the financial aspect.
Absolutely.
For someone who's, just starting out, newer agent, how can they kind of reframe and reset their expectations so that they don't get blindsided? What's, maybe a more healthy mindset to adopt right now?
Patience is one. They have to be dedicated and diligent. And in addition to the mindset, they have to understand that it is going to take some number of months before they get to a point where they are proficient. And I
Right.
say some number of months, I would say 9 months to a
Wow.
year before they really get to that level of proficiency. But it requires them to be patient and persistent and diligent at all of the skills that they need to develop and hone. And they will have to practice and practice and practice in order to do that.
Right. Practically speaking, what are some things that someone can do today to prepare themselves better for the reality of what this job really is?
So, a couple of things that are practical. One is understand that this is going to be your livelihood. So, I mentioned initially about the structure. You need to treat this as your job, your business, and you need to define a regular schedule that you would have as if you were working for someone else,
Right.
right? You need to start your day at a particular time. You need to have certain activities throughout the day.
Right.
And at the end of the day, one of the things you may want to do is have a retrospective reflection on what's happened
Yeah.
during that day.
That's key. Yeah.
So that's one. The other is, how much do I need to spend on leads?
Right.
Because I'm not that skilled yet, what portion of my policies will fall off the books or have chargebacks?
Mm-hmm.
What's the amount that I need to be setting aside for taxes? So having that financial plan will be helpful. And then the last thing that I would mention is if you can identify someone who is been in the business, successful, that would be willing to mentor you,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that would be of great value because this individual, you can reach out to them
Right.
periodically, check in. And I'll even go further, that I think would be even more valuable is someone like an accountability partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who will check in on you,
Right.
make sure that the things that you've committed yourself to, you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
or you have, periodic meetings with them
Mm-hmm.
and you've taken away some things that you should be done and you report back.
Mm-hmm.
Those will increase your chance of success because you have that plan,
Right.
you're accountable, you're doing the things
Mm-hmm.
that you should be doing to make
Yeah.
sure that the possibility of success is increased.
Right. If you could summarize this conversation, all that we've talked about, in kind of one line, what is the heart of what you want people to walk away with?
It can be done by everyone, but it isn't right for everyone. It really isn't. If you come in and you have a perspective that this is going to be a grind
Mm-hmm.
and I'm willing to put in the work
Right.
and I have clear expectations and understanding of what is possible
Mm-hmm.
within certain time periods, if you're consistent, you're diligent, and you're patient, you can do it.
Next time, we're going to talk about the shocking statistic that you've mentioned before, why nearly 85% of new agents don't make it past year one, and how to know if this career is really the right fit. We'll see you then.